Welcome back to Right on Four Corners. I'm your host, DelSheree Spinner. I am a high school English teacher and a novelist, and I'm excited to be talking to another writer and educator this week on the show. It'll be a little bit different because we're talking about an anthology and the process of going through all of that and some upcoming events related to the anthology. So we're talking to Kim Henderson today about the Four Corners Voices Volume 2. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, I'm Kim, and I am a fiction writer. I grew up in the Four Corners area and then moved away for about 20 years before coming back. And it was really exciting to come across this anthology, Four Corners Voices, and see that there is a work, celebrating writers specific to this area.
Yeah, I have been impressed with everything that they have put together and organized and accomplished. Haven't actually made it to any of their meetings because they're like on Wednesdays, and it's a drive from where we are in Farmington. It's like an hour and a half, and that's on a weekday, so that's hard, especially when you're in the middle of the school year and it's chaos. But but one of these days, I might actually make it to one of their events. This is the second volume of their anthology that has featured people from this area, and it's kind of everything. It seems like there's some poetry, there's some short stories, there's some essays as well. How did you hear about the anthology?
All right, so I first came across the anthology at Maria's bookshop in Durango and just saw it on the shelf there, and it caught my eye right away. I thought it was really cool. I had never come across any anthology or anything specific to writers from this area. And then I came across it again at Quill and Quest in Farmington. Again, took a look at it, ended up buying it, and I was just really impressed with the quality of it. I thought it was well edited, and it was clear that a lot of care went into it, and I was really excited that it exists.
One of the things that I've noticed with their group, I've met the bits and pieces of the people who kind of run it and put things together. When you look at their publishing history and their background in teaching and journalism, like with Mark, he's done a lot in that realm of writing for a long time. They really have a lot of skills that have all come together. I think just like their location and meeting each other and forming this group. It's an impressive group.
Yeah.
So not surprising that they put together a really well done anthology that was not only interesting, but well edited. And hearing from some of the others who participated, I think there was one gentleman who had submitted to the first anthology and they had politely passed, and he'd actually emailed, I believe it was Mark or Chuck. I might be wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong on who that was. Saying that they'd asked for feedback, like, how come this one didn't get selected? And it was like, what could I work on to move forward? Yeah. And whoever it was, either Chuck or Mark, worked with them over the next little while and gave feedback. And then they resubmitted for the second one and had their work accepted that time around.
Oh, nice.
And so just like a really good group of people to work with as well.
Yeah.
In my interactions as well that I've had with the various people working in it. And so I was curious about your experience with submitting, and tell us what you submitted and then just how that process went.
First of all, I didn't even know there was going to be a volume 2, and then a friend sent me the call for submissions, and so I was really excited, and I wanted to pick something that was a good fit for, an anthology in the Four Corners. So I sent in a short story, a piece of flash fiction that is from a novella in Flash, actually. It's one piece from that is set in the desert. I felt like it just kind of captured the fictional town that is sort of based on, where I grew up here. And I thought it would be a good fit for this anthology specifically.
And with your writing, you kind of specialize in shorter fiction, which is not something I'm good at all. So it's always interesting to talk to people who, that's kind of where their heart lies, is in the shorter fiction.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about just your publishing history leading up to this and what made you want to submit to this anthology.
Yeah, I've been writing fiction for a long time now, short fiction especially, and I've had chapbook of flash fiction published with Rose Metal Press. I found myself writing a lot of flash fiction, which is basically just really short stories. But I also write longer stories too, and I have published those in various journals. the Missouri Review, the Kenyon Review, Tin House Online, the Texas Observer. So various journals over the years. And then I'm always plugging away on some projects. So I'm working on a short story collection now too. I was excited to submit to this anthology specifically because, it focuses on this area and celebrates writers from here. So I was excited at the thought of contributing to that.
And so what was that? I guess maybe comparing and contrasting some of your experiences of submitting short fiction, because that's something I hear from other writers, that if they enjoy writing short fiction, they're always like, but I don't know what to do with it. How do you share that other than maybe, posting online or something? But if you're wanting to publish, I think sometimes the impression is that there isn't anything to do with it. Oh, magazines and journals, those just aren't really around. We get the impression with this digital age that all of that's dead now.
Yeah.
Who even knows?
Yeah.
But there actually is a pretty big marketplace and interest for short fiction. Diving into that and researching it, there's a lot that can kind of lead you off into trails, and maybe you're not so sure if it's quality or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess just tell us a little bit about that process in general, and then your experience of working with the anthology.
There actually are a lot of places to submit your short fiction out there, a whole lot. And I think it's just finding the first few, and then you'll start to find more and more as you go. There's a website, and I won't remember the title for now, but I always give it to my students because they keep a list of magazines and contests to submit short fiction to, and I think poetry to, and nonfiction. If I think of it, I think it's called New Pages. That's what it is. So look at newpages.com, and they have a ton of stuff on there. And then, you can start reading and finding journals that you like the work that's published in it. That's where I would send my work. If you don't like it, it's probably not going to be a good fit for you. But if you read it and you like it, you should send your work there. And there actually are a lot out there.
I was trying to think of, what is the other one that's been really popular? Is Submittable or something like that?
Yeah.
It kind of has a tracking system.
Yeah, Submittable. Well. There's one called Duotrope, if I'm saying it right. I'm not sure. But that one, there are some websites that do tracking and they're a good way to find journals too.
Resources. If I can find them and track them down, I can add them to the show notes as well. So with this one, working through the process of the Voices anthology, what was that like as far as once you submitted, did you get feedback? There's always a waiting game in publishing to hear something, but hopefully this being local, it wasn't too terribly long to hear back.
It wasn't too bad. I think it was a couple months, maybe 2-3 months off the top of my head. It was something like that. And then, it was really lovely working with them. We went back and forth on edits. They provided edits a couple times, and it was really nice. I love working with editors who actually provide you with edits. Some just publish your work as is, but there's always something, some little sentence you can tweak or adjust. And they really go over everything with a fine-tooth comb. So by the time it's published in the anthology, it's in good shape. All the work in there is polished and looks really good.
Yeah, it's always interesting working with editors. I've been publishing for about 15 years in one form or another. And so I've worked with different editors over time. And some it's I learn a ton and it's a great experience. And each editor kind of has their own pet peeves and things that they really drill into you. And then others, it's sure, it looks great. Yeah. One of my publishers that I had at one point, I was waiting for edits and emailed them finally. I was it's been 6 months. Where are we at in this process? And they're oh, it looked good. We already sent it on to formatting. And I was I'm sure it was not that perfect. Yeah. And it definitely was not. And it still got published like that anyway. Editing is a fun process, even though I think a lot of people dread it. Mm-hmm. And there's always that moment when you click to open the edits. You're oh gosh, how bad is this going to be?
Yeah.
I think that learning process, and when you find someone really good to work with you, sometimes they can be a really good editor, but it might just not be a good fit still. And there's personality and just workability that goes along with that too.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's nice to hear that this was a pleasant process and not something that you dreaded.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was nice.
Your piece that you submitted, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's called Vaquera, and it's about a girl, a young woman, who becomes a mascot for a sports team, like her community college sports team. And the idea came from, I went to a minor league baseball game. I think it was the Lake Elsinore Quakes, I want to say. This, I was living in Southern California, and I think that was who it was. And they had the best mascot ever. Like, pro baseball games, the mascots didn't compare to this one. The person was so active and so, like, you found yourself watching them instead of the game. And it just really struck me. So I ended up writing this story about a girl who's very much not like that in her regular life. But once she puts that mask on and that costume on, she can be like that.
That I think a lot of people either experience that or would like to experience that in some way of like, can you just go be a different person for a while? Like, just step away from all of your own history and baggage and fears. If nobody knows it's you, you can be whoever you want.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is an interesting, also kind of scary in a way to like take that step to actually do it.
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of my students. I teach 9th graders right now, and they're kind of in that stage of like, they hit high school, some of them think like, oh, I can reinvent myself. I can be the high school version of me.
Yeah.
And that's not really as easy as I think some of them hope it might be, because you're still with your same peers that you've grown up with for the most part. And, so that's kind of hard. But it's an interesting idea that I think we all like at some stage in our life. If I just completely reinvented who I was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So a relatable concept for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and with this one, you said that they did have like a few edits here and there. Was it more on like sentence and structure? Did they have any like bigger like story or character level ideas for you?
So with this one, it was pretty minor, like sentence level fixes. This story had actually been published before in a journal called Flash Fiction Online. So I had worked on it a lot, but I appreciated that they still found, some ways to improve it. But yeah, at that point, it was mostly smaller, like sentence level stuff.
That's something I find interesting with shorter fiction. And it's something like when I've talked to poets that, I don't know, it just kind of like blows my mind in a way. Because like I said, I don't do poetry like at all. I avoided poetry classes in my graduate program. I was like, don't make me take it. I don't want to try to analyze something I don't write or understand very well.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting, like doing the radio show to talk to more poets and hear about their process. Because it's like in a novel, you have 80 to 100,000 words to get your point across. And some of it gets a little rambly or you take a sidetrack here. You can. Like you have the room to do that.
Right.
And kind of find what you're saying, especially in your early drafts, like often super rambly.
Yeah.
But when you're working with so little space and few words, like they really have to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And every single word, like in a poem, I can't remember who I was talking to, but she had said that she'd spent like 2 weeks on like one word and just kept going back and forth and like, that's not quite right. And then she'd step away and come back to it later and try a different word. It was to get across like exactly what she wanted the reader to feel. It took all that time just to find that one word that she's like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm good. I can walk away from it now.
Yeah.
And I would think like with flash fiction particularly, and then short stories, down to those sentences, you just don't have that much space to get across exactly what you want the readers to experience or the path you want them to take through the story.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing to me because I've done a few short stories here and there because I've had to, mostly for classes. But it's always interesting. I think I had an exercise in one of my classes where we had to write a short story and the cap was 2,500 words.
Mm-hmm.
And worked on that. And then like at the end, it's like, okay, now it has to be 1,500. I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
That's cruel.
And I didn't quite make the number.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do this. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And it was more like, that wasn't the final grade, but it was more like, okay, you feel like you've perfected it. Now what else can you like cut out and be more concise and try to get your point across? And it was so hard to do that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't. I think I made it down to 1,800 words.
Yeah. Close enough. Yeah.
For someone who's writing short fiction and they're going through the process of like working on it themselves, and maybe they're like almost ready to either take it to a critique group or an editor or submit it to something. What advice would you give as far as refining and getting it to like the best point you can before you share it in some way? Because that's scary, especially for newer writers who this might be like the first time they're submitting to something.
Yeah. I think patience, as hard as it is, like being patient is a huge part of it, because you need time and space and you need time away from it to be able to come back to it and see it more objectively. So for me, over the years, I think that's the thing that I've found the most, that when I was younger, I couldn't be that patient. I just wanted to send it out now, and then later I would realize that wasn't quite ready. When it comes to submitting to like critique groups and stuff, I think you have more leeway. You're not sending out for publication, but you still want it to be the best you can get it. So for me, I think it's completing it, working on it, taking some time away from it, and then coming back to it. I revise a lot. I do many, many drafts of almost every story, and I enjoy that. So I would probably I go through several drafts before I even send my stuff to a critique group. That's me. Not everybody wants to revise that much, but I actually really enjoy the act of revising. So
I think it's an interesting process because I think with most first drafts, you finish it and you're just like, woohoo, like, yay, this is so awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, you feel so good about like finishing something. Mm-hmm. And you don't really want to think quite yet about all the mistakes and things that don't make sense in there. And you're like, probably whatever, keep going.
Yes.
And so like there's this like fun, happy feeling that you want to like ride for a while.
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
But most of the time, like even though you're feeling super good about it, other people aren't going to.
Yeah. Ride that feeling for a while. Enjoy it. I think you earn it, so you should enjoy it. And then you do have to go back to it and look at it. And you're going to have that day where it's a big down, a big drop where you're like, oh my gosh, this has so much work. I don't even know what this is about.
What was I doing in this section?
Why did I think this was the best thing ever written? And then it's that uphill climb over a long, course to get it to where it really is something that's ready to be shared with other people.
Are there specific things with short stories or flash fiction? Because I know, I can't even remember who I was talking about, but they were talking about having taken a class and learning about like reverse outlining. Write the draft, have whatever the heck in there, and it can be a rambly mess if you want. Mm-hmm. And then go back and create an outline from what you wrote. Mm-hmm. And that will probably show you some things you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I went from here to here, or, this never connected to anything, so I should probably fix that. And it was an interesting approach to revising, especially like structure-wise, of going back and looking at your structure. And some people are very structure-oriented, and, they've got the 3 acts and the beats and the save the cat and all of that. And I'm not that type of writer, but I do want it to make sense and have good flow and not drag on in certain places. So I was like, oh, that's actually a really interesting approach. And I think especially for newer writers, that could be really helpful, especially if you're just kind of like diving into it and haven't maybe done like some academic types of writing.
Yeah.
But I was curious if there are things with shorter fiction that when you do the revising process, what do you look for? Are there techniques? Is it more of looking at character or story arc, or does it depend? Yeah. What
I
is
think
your
it
process
depends
like?
some, but I do feel like it is for me, and this is, I think everyone has like their thing they struggle with their writing. But for me, I'm figuring out what this is about. Like I wrote the draft. I know there's something in it that I care about that draws me back to it. And then takes a while to figure out what is this really about, I guess thematically, on a deeper level. It takes me a while, like a few drafts, to really figure out what's going on with this story. So I guess that's part of it for me, is figuring out what am I writing about here? What's going on a deeper level? And that's where getting feedback is helpful too, and hearing what other people see as like what this story is exploring. And then I start to get that idea more and more, and it's almost like working a puzzle or something. That's something I enjoy about writing and revising, is it's like a puzzle, and you're figuring out these pieces as you go along, and you're figuring out that's why this character is this way. That's what's driving them. And I find it really fun to learn about the character as I go. And then the plot, I think, kind of comes from the character and their choices as I get to know them better and better. And that's usually through a lot of revising.
I think it's interesting with theme, particularly because that's what I'm trying to teach my students right now. We've got a few more weeks. It's a bit of a struggle, but it's always the one that they have like the hardest time wrapping their heads around.
Yeah.
Especially when I don't let them use things like, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Like, that was 4th grade. We're in 9th grade now. We need to like put it in more specific terms. And they don't like that. But so I was like, okay, what's the theme? Like, where's their starting point? And then they're like,
Yeah.
And trying to, like, as the reader, take something that you've just, like, ingested and interacted with and then boil it down to, like, a sentence.
Yeah.
Is really hard as the reader.
Yeah.
But as the writer, it's not that much easier because sometimes when you start a project, you don't fully know, like, what you're getting at. Like, that does develop as you go. And then if you think about it, like you were saying, like, then when you're revising, like, trying to really dive into that theme and develop it and highlight it as best you can with that character. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
You know, it's details of the character, the setting, the place, like they all work together to really bring this one idea, especially in shorter fiction. In longer fiction, you're going to have, you know, a couple different themes that you're playing with.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things with like reader writer, there's this different impression of, oh, well, they started with this clear idea and then they wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
Or a short story. And it's like, maybe sometimes, I think usually when it goes in that order, it usually doesn't come across great.
I think it's like, the opposite.
I have a point, and I'm going to make it. And then you're like, oh, this book's really preachy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it is often like that other way around of you're finding it as you go. And sometimes somebody else tells you what you're doing, and you're like, that is it.
Yes, that's the best moment when you get that feedback. And you're like, thank you for telling me what my story's about.
It's like it's all swimming around up there, and it just wasn't like sinking into your own head. And you're like, that is exactly what I've been writing this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always kind of a funny moment. I've had that happen a few times where I'm like, yeah, that was what this story's about. Thank you.
Yeah. 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 And I feel like I think that's when I kind of know I'm ready to send a story out, is when I do finally like know specifically those thematic elements. I really get it all. Then it's like, okay, this is ready.
And it's kind of funny. One of the few short stories that I have written that I was like, oh, that actually turned out well, was in graduate school again, because I had to. Like, this is the assignment.
Yeah.
And I've read it in public a few times. I haven't really done anything else with it, because I'm a novelist. I'm like, I don't know. And then there's this random short story. It's going to sit there and I'll pull it out when I need to read something. And I've been like trying to redo all my marketing and get stuff started, because I had taken a long break from all of that over the past few years. And I had kind of something else that I was using for like a newsletter reader magnet, and I wanted to change it up. I was like, oh, maybe I can use that short story. And it's called Unicorns and the F Word. And it actually doesn't have the F word in it at all. It comes up.
Yeah.
And so I was going back through that, and I was kind of writing out some newsletter posts to kind of restart things. And I mean, I wrote it about like 6 years ago or something. Like I said, I've read it a few times since then. I've changed little things here and there. And I've always thought of it as a story about grief.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's two characters who've lost somebody, and they kind of connect over this random wrong number text message. And this mug with unicorns and the F word all over it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sharing that with her. And so to me, it's always been like, okay, I wrote up this random story about grief and how it can connect people and whatever. Like, move on. Mm-hmm. And as I was writing out my newsletter, I was kind of telling my story and why I'm redoing all of this stuff and everything. And I mentioned the story, and then I realized, like, in that moment, I was like, the story's not actually about grief.
Wow.
Like, it's about hope and moving forward, and that's what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of how I wrapped things up. But it was like, it had taken me that long to look at it, and having read back through it again and think about, like, how do I explain this to, like, my readers who, like, haven't heard from me for, like, 4 years.
Right.
And why? And then I was like, I was like, okay, now it makes sense of why I wrote that story and why I never did anything with it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't quite understand what it was.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah.
It might take 6 years to figure it out.
Yeah. It's a long game, really.
It is, in general.
Yeah.
A lot about writing. It does take a lot of patience, but it's a fun journey, even though it's really hard sometimes. And you want to like bang your head against a wall when you get all those rejections, and that's part of it. But
it is. That's the hard part.
Sometimes you do get yeses, and then you get to be in a cool anthology.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've taken us like totally off topic, but the anthology, as a group, have done an awesome job like promoting it and getting out into the community.
Yeah.
And I've seen posts all over for Maria's and various things. And the timing for having you on the show right now was because you have an event coming up soon. This will probably be airing the week before the event happens. Tell us about what we have planned coming up March 28th and just what the event's going to be, and people have a chance to meet you and some of the other submissions.
Yeah, so it'll be March 28th, 3:30 to 5 o'clock, right?
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a really great event because it'll be a chance to celebrate the anthology and some of the writers published in it. And then also there's a learning component to it. Chuck Greaves, one of the editors, is going to come. This will be at Quill and Quest, and he'll talk about the editorial process from an editor's perspective, and shed some light into that process from his side, and hopefully kind of demystify that process, so people who are thinking about pursuing publication can get some insights into that from his part of it, and then we'll have some readers read their work that's published in the anthology too.
Be copies available for people who are interested and want to read the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's great, so people should pick it up. And it's all over the place in the local area. For people who are listening who live here, I know it's at Quill and Quest and Maria's, and I forgot the name of the other one in Durango. It's a little tiny bookstore across from the Durango Cafe.
Okay.
I will have to look up the book later, but we were in there and I saw it and I was like, oh,
nice.
I didn't even know this bookstore was here.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stuff.
Nice.
I feel bad that I forgot their name. It's all over.
Yeah.
But it's also available online in all the normal places.
I think all the like Amazon, Bookshop, probably Barnes & Noble, all the normal places. Yeah. Yeah.
And are there any other upcoming events that you're aware of? I hadn't really seen too many, but over the summer I thought
specifically for the anthology?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. I think most of them, they had some readings this winter, and then that's all that comes to mind for now.
Okay. Yeah. Keep an eye. We haven't heard any news about a third volume planned, but I think they may have needed a break. Because the group also put on the Mesa Verde Writers Conference and the Literary Fest, and I think they all needed a bit of a rest after everything that they did over the last year.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't count it out that they might do something else in the future. But yeah, they have a presence online.
Yeah, we're Four Corners Writers.
Yes, there we go. fourcornerswriters.com.
Yeah.
For a while, I think they'd only have a Facebook page, so it's nice. They have a new website, all the information on there.
Yeah.
People want to order through Bookshop. They had a link for that as well. It supports whichever local indie bookstore you want it to. You get to choose.
Yeah.
And then links to everywhere else as well. Anything else for you personally that you're working on that you'd like to shout out and let people know about?
I'll be doing a talk with them, actually. It was supposed to be last night, and then the snow changed our plans. So it's April 15th. I'll be doing a talk on flash fiction up in Cortez, and I'm excited about it. I love talking about flash fiction, so and we'll do some writing. It'll be like reading some flash pieces, talking about them a bit, and then doing some writing too.
Yeah, check that out. The information. You came and did a presentation for the Write to Publish group that I host, and had a lot of really great feedback, and everybody loved the writing exercises. So highly recommend people check that out if you want to learn more.
All right.
All right. Well, Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and just sharing your insights and a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me.